Cool. Hey, man.
How are you?
Good. Good. It's a gloomy day, but yeah, it's a good day.
I love working on gloomy days.
Me too.
Um, when I lived in San Diego for just a few months back in '96, and I loved the weather, but everybody was lazy, and I was lazy too, because it's just so nice out. It's gonna be nice tomorrow. It's gonna be nice the next day. You just know it's nice, and you just kind of just don't. Just I don't know. I like these. I like how when it's rainy and gloomy, it's like you have mini seasons. Like you have 3 days in a row which are awesome, and then it's shitty for 2 days, and you can just work harder. I just kind of like it. I don't know.
Yeah. And I don't for me too, that's funny. I mean, I have the same similarity. Like there's a similarity there. Like I love sunny weather. I mean, I've lived in California now a few months, a couple times in my life, like when I was doing Y Combinator, and I enjoyed it. You know, like there's swim in outdoor pools, like in all year long, I'm not in love with the sun. Like I don't know what it is. Like it gives me headaches sometimes, and like I love like just sitting inside, like knowing I don't really feel like going outside, and I can just sit around and even contemplate stuff, like think about things. And I don't know, there's something about just hanging out inside, like not wanting to go outside.
Well, I don't mind being outside when it's gloomy. Like I kind of love I think my favorite place to be. This is really an over exaggeration, but I love being outside when it's raining, but having a roof over my head,
Oh yeah,
have
yeah,
open air.
yeah.
That to me is like the best possible and outdoor environment outside of like beautiful weather.
Yeah.
I just
My
love it.
favorite is someone else driving a car while I don't if I don't have to deal with driving in the elements, because obviously it's not a lot of fun usually driving in some shitty weather, but
Right.
I love being kind of like in a car while it's raining, and someone else has to have the responsibility, and I can just daydream and look out the window.
Yeah, it's great. All right,
Yeah.
let's get in the show, man.
Yes.
Um, I thought yesterday's show was good too. We were talking before, so we have we're using Basecamp to sort of run the show, and we have every morning we just write up what we want to talk about, like some ideas, some things that come up. We both had a similar thought this morning, which was talking about self-inflicted pain. Sometimes you make a product and you create pain for yourself or for customers, and you maybe didn't realize it, or you had good intentions, but it caused a lot of problems. And and I want to talk about something. I'll start by talking about something that we did, and that's something that's influencing us today because of what we did. So when we transitioned over from Basecamp Classic to BCX, which is the current version of Basecamp, which was in about almost 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago or so. We actually delayed the launch of the product by a few months to build in a really nice way to migrate from Classic to the new Basecamp, to move your projects over, to move your people over, to move everything over. And we spent a lot of time on it and really worked on getting it right. And it was hard and complicated and the whole thing, but we felt like it was the right thing to do. Turns out, and we made it really easy, and we actually suggested people do it, and we just like kind of thought that was the golden path. And it turns out that it was not worth it in so many cases. In some cases it was, but what we just didn't think about at the time was that when someone's in the middle of something, when a project's going on, when you're working with a client, when something's happening, that's actually the worst time to sort of renovate your house. Like when you need to be in the kitchen, it's the worst time to do a kitchen renovation, right?
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
cook. And basically what was happening is projects are going on all the time, and we're suggesting that people move their projects over while they're in the middle of them to this new product, which is still called Basecamp, but the furniture is different, and the feature set's different, and the interface is different, and the way it looks is different, the way it works is everything about it is different, but it's still called Basecamp. So we felt like, well, we should make it easy to move. And it turns out that it actually caused a lot of problems because we made it easy to move. The feature sets weren't equal, so there wasn't like feature and data parity. We didn't lose any data, but like some things weren't there anymore. Things that people relied on in the old one weren't in the new one, and there's new stuff in the new one that wasn't in the old one. So if you worked in the new one and then you want to go back to the old one, you couldn't back migrate your data because you then would have data loss. And like we just made it so easy, but we really created a bad experience. So technically we made it easy, but we also made it easy for people to have a bad outcome. And that taught us a lot. And so for this new version, Basecamp 3, you cannot move anything over. We're basically saying keep everything where it is in the old one. Stuff you're running currently, old projects, just keep them there. And whenever you have your next project, that's when you should try the new Basecamp. And we will not charge you for both. You can pick one or the other. Unless you do want to actively use both, then you will pay for both. But if you just want to keep your old stuff around forever, we'll never charge you for that. You can keep working on your old stuff. You just can't make new stuff in the old version, unless, again, you want to pay for that separately. But anyway, point is that we decided that it's not worth it to help people move between things that are not equivalent. And that's the deeper insight. Certainly we're going to have some pushback, I'm sure, from people saying, well, I like the new one. I want to move all my stuff over. But I think the better thing is to say, like, if you like the new one, use the new one for now on. And then keep the old stuff where it is so nothing gets lost, no one gets confused. Actually, nothing would get lost, but so no one gets confused. So anyone you've trained on the old system knows how to use it. So there's no complications there. Anyway, that was sort of a lesson that we learned, a surprising lesson, especially after we worked a long time and pushed the product release out to make it easy to move over. It was the bad call, or wrong move.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that's really interesting, because it's from a couple different levels, but like you talk about, like, obviously you were able to come back from that, right? I mean, that was like, I imagine when this was happening, like, you did it, you pulled the trigger, you told people to move on, and now you're getting a flood of emails of people pissed off, right, about something. How did you handle that? Because, like, you know, that shit happens all the time. Like, we're going through something now where we made a change to we've talked about this before, about like some auto assignment rules. There were some bugs in it. It didn't do probably what we wanted it to do for certain customers. Of course, we get a flurry of some pissed off people. And then there's that desire, like, oh my God, do we, like, you know, turn it off?
Right, yeah.
How did you handle that? Like, what was going on at the time when, like, were you like, holy shit, we should stop letting people import projects into the new Basecamp?
I think, I can't remember exactly, but I'll give you something. So there was so many things happening, right? There was just simply, first of all, no one lost data. So that was the most, like, we made sure that you wouldn't lose anything, because when you migrated, it wasn't a move operation, it was a copy operation. So all the stuff was copied in the new Basecamp, and everything that was there before is still in the old place. Still there, nothing was lost. That was really important to us to design it that way, and that's how it played out. But the confusion was there's a lot of confusion. So number one, we didn't have time tracking in the new Basecamp, and everyone on the old, not everyone, a lot of people in the old Basecamp used time tracking. So that wasn't there anymore. So it didn't matter if the new one was better in 100 other ways. If it didn't have the one thing people wanted, they were upset, which is understandable, right?
Yeah.
So we actually got a lot of flack from that, and so we posted something about, we're going to talk to a bunch of customers about time tracking to really understand what they're trying to do. And so we did a lot of that, and that spurred us to do a lot of research on that. We didn't end up delivering time tracking in the current version of Basecamp, but we did that. Since we didn't move anyone's data, it was very easy for people to go back. But any new data they created in the new one was not backwards compatible. So there was some stuff there. So in some cases, we helped people manually migrate some things. So we did help there. One of the really big confusing parts was the pricing, because we had this weird convoluted system, which again sounded good at the time. It was like, all right, you're going to pay for old version, new version, different pricing, different plans. Whichever one you pay for, you'll get a credit for that amount on the previous version. But we should have known at the time, I remember designing this table. It's like, if you have this plan and the new one and this one and the old one, like, you draw the line and this is like your new price and this is the credit. Anytime you have to make a fucking table to explain things, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Fucked. And so that was confusing. We had to issue a bunch of credits and, like, clean things up there. We made a bunch of changes. At some point we downplayed, originally we had, the migration process was part of sign up. So we know when you signed up, we knew if you had a Classic account, and we would, like, take you down the golden path of migration. We ended up turning off that golden path, still making it possible to migrate, but we downplayed it significantly, made it a small link at the bottom of the account screen. And it became a thing where if people asked about how to do it, we could give them the solution, but we did not push anyone in that direction anymore. So that was kind of one of the major things we did. We didn't roll back the feature of migrating. We just downplayed it significantly. We didn't pass everyone by it.
Right.
So it was there if it was possible. It was possible it wasn't easy. Or actually, it was possible and easy, it wasn't obvious. That's what it was. It wasn't, we went from totally obvious to non-obvious,
Yeah.
but still available if you need it.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of all hands on deck moments where like everyone jumped in on support. There was a lot of FAQ writing that we thought we'd answered questions that we hadn't. So we rapidly wrote new FAQs. We rapidly made a few new pages on the site that explained the differences better. We just had all the, like, it was a few weeks of everyone jumping in on this particular thing, which spawned a bunch of separate problems, and a lot of people had to do it. So it was it's like we went through all this trouble to make it easy, and we actually made it hard on everybody. That's what we ended up doing, was making it hard on everyone by trying to make it easy.
Yeah.
And that was a really good lesson.
Yeah. And I think it's a good lesson.
We didn't even really question it. It's like, of course you would want to move between things, but I'm not so sure that's really what we want to do. So anyway.
Yeah. I think the one other big interesting things about what you're saying is like how much that pain, like a very painful moment, I think obviously it taught you like a really deep lesson, right? I mean, like what you're saying is like, of course, it's obvious people would want to move stuff, like, but you like learn this deep lesson about it that like only pain would, like it's like something you had to like bump into almost, I think, to get right. I don't know. So I some of the stuff that we've been kind of doing, we've been doing a lot of like self-inflicted pain at Highrise, like, and it's something I've learned along the way of like, we've talked about this in a previous episode, like with Draft and like doing the writing, when I, did this Ask a Pro service in Draft, and I wanted to like send documents over to a professional editor. I instead of like automating this whole thing out of the box, I like made sure that it was actually going to be kind of painful. I knew it would be, or at least I hoped it would be, that an order would come in from a customer for professional edits of their document. It would email me, and then I'd have to go email this other company to get the editors to do the job. And there was other aspects of this. Then the editors would be done. I'd get a link back, and it was just this messy, painful process. But it was like through that pain where I realized a lot of things, like not just about the editing service, but how to like, what was important in terms of making workflows in Draft. Like, okay, then it dawned on me, like, I'm going to need folders so that I could move documents from like a pending area to a completed area. And it was just this, it sucked. And there was this point where I was on vacation with my wife in like Puerto Rico, and I'm like answering like support emails and trying to do QA of this messy process of editing. But it was like through that, it was like, oh my God, I need easier tools to do this. And it was like when I launched these other tools, like folders and stuff like that helped me do this job, people loved it. And we're doing it again with Highrise. Like I turned on auto forwarding in Highrise, so you could auto forward like any email from Gmail into your Highrise account. And I did it like right away, knowing that we would get this influx of email that would like destroy our account. Like there'd be spam, there'd be like, we wouldn't know what to do with it. But it was like, I'm not going to avoid this, because I know if I do it, the pain is going to be like insanely helpful to us. Like we will know, like, holy shit, we're creating way too many cases. I can't find cases. I can't find emails. We got to improve our filters. We got to improve search. Like, and I knew there was some pushback from people on the team. They were like, Nate, this is going to kill our account. Like, don't do this. Like, we won't be able to find anything. And it's like, that's the point. Like, we won't know about, we're going to be pointing out like things that our customers have problems with, but also really great insights going to come from this. Like, let's not be afraid of it. Let's do it to ourselves, and we'll get out of it by like making a better product.
This is the best thing you can do, is just to get real with stuff. We're doing this next week. So like I feel like we're about to punch ourselves in the shoulder really hard. So the new so one of the knocks on Basecamp over the years has been like, it sends a ton of emails. And so with the current version, we actually launched a digest thing last year or earlier this year, which allowed you to wrap up emails into like 3-hour chunks, which was a huge fix, right? But this new version, there's cascading notifications. So first notification goes out in the app. So if you have your browser open, you get a browser notification. You get a badge in the app, and that's where it stops. Okay, you don't get a ping on your phone, and you don't get an email. However, if you don't have the app open, the next notification path is your phone. So if you have the app installed and you have push notifications on, you get the notification there, and then that's the last one you get. if you don't have the app open in your browser, you don't have the app open on your phone, I'm sorry, installed on your phone, and or you don't have push notifications on, then you get an email. So since all of us here internally are testing Basecamp with the phone app and with the browser app, none of us are getting emails. But the most common scenario is still going to be email to start, because people would have to install the app. They'd have to have the browser open with the app, all that stuff. So next week, me and a few others are going to disable push notifications on our phone and not leave our browser, not leave Basecamp open in the browser, and see what the hell happens, which is basically going to be, we're going to be getting too many emails again. It's going to be annoying us. And only when it annoys us, only when we feel actual real pain will we solve that problem. Until then, we can just, it's a blind spot. It's a self-imposed blind spot as well, because you're like, well, it doesn't bother me, so why fix it? But you sometimes have to feel that pain, or that, someone's got to keep punching you in the shoulder, and you're like, okay, let's stop that. So we're about to do that next week, and I suspect that it's actually pretty good. I've been kind of dabbling with it. It's not bad, but there's definitely a few areas that are bad, and we have to fix that. Totally. The new Basecamp has instant messaging built in, and right now, if someone just like chats you up, you're just going to get an email every time they say anything, which is just shitty. So we're going to fix that, but like we have to live with that to fix that. We've known about this for a while, but it hasn't affected us, so we just don't deal with it. But we'll have to get that fixed. And one way to do it is to live with that problem.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you guys have been doing it for a while now. Like, I remember when you guys, David is, from the developer's standpoint, I know David made, like, people shut off, like, we're not doing some of the automated tools that you guys have chatting away in Basecamp. Like, you're going to turn off that access, because it's like, our customers don't have access to these tools. Like, we're not going to use them either. And people were, I mean, it's awesome, because obviously then it's like, well, then we need to build the tools because we really want them. So we better build them, good things our customers can use. And there's like, I know you love like looking at analogies and inspiration from nature. And I mean, this is just another one. I mean, nature is doing this to itself constantly. It like adapts to, changes in the environment, in pains and stresses, to make itself like stronger. Like, I was actually reading about there's some doctors now and research that's like low doses of even radiation can make your body stronger against like big painful doses and cancerous doses of radiation. It's just it's good. It's interesting stuff.
That is interesting. I think it just comes down to, I think it's just pure human nature, which is that no one gives a shit about anything until it affects them. And that's a broad generalization, but it's also pretty, I would put money on that being mostly true. Like you can see it right now, like climate change, like we kind of care, but not really until, New York's underwater, then we're going to start caring. And the same thing is true for just about everything. We, all sort of try and kind of eat healthy, but not really until you get sick. And then you're like, Jesus, I got to stop doing that, or whatever it is, right? This is just how humans are. Probably evolutionarily, there's probably good reasons for it. And you sort of wait till the last minute so you don't waste your time on things that don't matter. But this is similar in software, which is like, why should I worry about the email problem if I don't have it? There's other things I should worry about that I do run into every day that aren't optimized. But this email problem is going to be a problem other people are going to have right off the bat. So you've got to force yourself sometimes to have an illness, basically, to feel what it's like, and then to figure out what the cure is.
Yeah, and it's not natural. Like people don't try to go towards pain. They try to stay away from it. So it's like you say it like you got to force yourself. And I think some people are listening to this and they're like, okay, that's obvious, but it's just like it's not obvious. Like most people in these situations, like try to stay away from it. Like let's not do that, because they wouldn't say like let's turn off our apps and make Basecamp harder to use for ourselves because that week is going to really suck or whatever. Like they wouldn't do that because it's going to suck. You are going to lose productivity, but you have to do it to make yourself better.
There's also timing though too. So one of the other things that's kind of interesting, it's weird on my Capital lens here. Sorry. Is that I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. I think we may have touched on this anyway already before, but my CPU is just spinning like crazy. Hopefully my video is coming through. I think
seems okay. Yeah.
Distorted. Okay. That there's certain features that are painful. Like for example, in our Basecamp account, we have like in the new Basecamp account, we have like 40 projects running at once, right? And the menu where you select the project you want to go to is cluttered as hell right now. Mine is, at least, because I have access to everything. And it kind of sucks in some ways. So you can highlight things and pull them to the top so you can keep your like starred projects up. Like, but even my starred projects list is long, and it's just, but no one else is going to have this problem for a while, because people are going to start out with no projects, and they'll make their first project and they'll play with it for a little bit, and maybe they'll make their second or third and their fourth. But until they get to where we're at, which we've been using it for months and months and months, certainly some people might jump right in and make a ton of stuff, but most people aren't going to have the problems we're having right now. So it's like, I know there's pain there, and I'm feeling it, but I want to take one for the team, basically, and not spend time solving that problem, because that's not a problem that's going to affect the majority for a while. So we have time to solve that problem. So there is some pain you just deal with. It's like, let's get back to an analogy. Like, my dad has been jogging every day for 40 some odd years. Both my parents jog every day, 3-4 miles a day, right? Parents are in their 70s now, they still jog. But my dad's ankle's like busted up bad, but he's just stubborn about it and just deals with it. He just like, it's not a really problem. I'll just deal with it, whatever, right? He probably should get it fixed, but he just deals with it. And that's kind of how I feel right now with this projects menu. It's like, it's kind of busted if you have a ton of stuff, but it doesn't really affect anyone else yet. It affects me mostly. So I'll just like I'll limp by with it until more people have the problem, and then we'll fix the problem.
Yeah.
So sometimes the pain you just have to deal with. Other times it's really obvious that you need to take the pain to understand what other people are going through.
Yeah.
It's really empathetic software development, but understanding what to empathize with, because not everything needs to be empathized with at the same time. That's kind of the challenge too, to figure out what's really worth dealing with.
Right. There's a really great, I forget if we've talked about this before. I think we may have talked about this offline, but there was a really great article from, I believe it was like from the Google venture arm, talking about design. There's like a Google venture blog or something like that. We're talking about design. They're talking about the 3 types of design. And it was like, they're talking about product design, just basically getting the feature out there, the power, the ability to do something done and created. Then they were talking about interaction design, like making that product, that thing, that feature actually better, more convenient. And then aesthetic design, like making it pretty, making it delightful. And it's like, some things need all 3, but you probably don't need all 3 always at the same time, or certain aspects of the product need to be in a different phase, and they bring us some really great examples like Craigslist, like really that thing is just product design. It sucks to use, it sucks to look at, but nobody needs anything else. Like it just needs to do the job. Or like the Drudge Report, which I know you're a big fan of, but man, it does its job really well. Nobody fucking needs anything else. But some products are in a different phase of their life, or different features in a different phase. And it's really important to like, I think, delineate these phases and like recognize, like you're doing with this menu, like this thing, it does its job as a product. Some people really don't need the extra interaction design and aesthetic design that you will probably likely do in another phase of this feature down the road, months from now. And a lot of people, I think, need to recognize that. Like sometimes people just need the power. You just need the feature out the door. You don't have to spend the time, making it beautiful or making it interact well. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you might be time for it, but you have to decide that stuff, not just always do all the things all the time.
Yeah, and of course, like the Craigslist example is a good one, but also like they might be beat because they're not paying attention to that experience too. So who knows, right? No one ever knows any of this stuff. You just kind of like do the best you can, and just as long as you're aware. I think the key is just being aware of all the things going on, all the decisions that have to be made, which ones are worth doing now, right, which ones are worth doing later, and you hope that on balance you get the mix mostly right. Yeah. I think that's the best you can do, is to hope that you get the mix mostly right. But whenever I look at something in a product that I'm building, at least, and I do this with other people's products too. Like I'll use a product and I'll because I've been doing this so long, I'll look at something and go, oh, I know they're going to fix that later. I know this is inefficient, but they're fine with it. Or like, I can see where they went overboard to make an experience just right, because they probably ran into some bad experience. in ours, it's like everything I look at, I'm like, does this matter now? Does this matter for, not for us, because we've been using this thing for 6, 7, 8 months while we've been building it. We are pro Basecamp users at the highest possible level. Does this matter to anyone else on day 1, on day 2, on day 3, on day 30, day 60, day 90? People will run into things we're running into, but, and this is actually, I think I may have talked about this, I think I did on a previous show. When we launched Basecamp originally, we couldn't even charge people.
Yeah.
Because we had 30 days before they would be charged. So like, we just had 30 days. So let's not put the engineering effort and design effort into designing the charging system and the pick a plan system, because it didn't matter yet. There's other things we could do in that time. So I kind of am always thinking about what's the time scale of particular feature, particular product set, feature set, and what's worth dealing with now, what's worth dealing with later, and what are other people going to run into now versus later in the whole thing. So
yeah, we're doing this right now. We're making like an inbox view in Highrise, and like we're spending a lot of time just trying to figure out like what, I mean, there's tons of ideas and tons of stuff that we want from it, but it's like right now, you know, we're going to put this in the hands of people doing customer support for Highrise, and it's just like, what do you need on day 1 that like we can't, I mean, the minimal product, but it's like, yeah, like there's a time when all of this other stuff will become important, but like on day 1, there's going to be a real important time when we can't fuck up supporting our customers. Like, what is that set of things? And it's, yeah.
No doubt. So yeah, these are really good topics. I think they're really important. I think they're really important things. So
it's
actually time's up.
Yeah.
3:30. How about that?
And
cool.
We should dig into this. I want to dig into with you this inbox design at some point. I don't know. Maybe next week we can talk about it.
Maybe next week. Whenever you want. Let's just share a screen and go live on it. Like let's just talk about it. And we can do it in person too. But it'd be fun to do it live too. I think that this show is going to hit another level when we're able to riff on product stuff live, look at things live, share screens, things that haven't been released yet. And I think probably in the next few weeks, I'm going to be sharing a lot of Basecamp 3 stuff this way. But I think that like this isn't the kind of stuff I've seen other people do, so I'm really excited to see this come together.
Yeah, if we can figure it out, because I agree with you. You don't see other people like working on like, hey, here's a feature we're also kind of considering. You know, like let's chew on this a little bit.
There's something in progress. What you see are a lot of blog posts about like, here's what we landed on, and then here's the 15 things that we tried. But I want to talk about the shit we're trying right now. We haven't landed on it yet. Let's talk about the things we're bouncing between live. Like today, this is the shit that isn't quite right. And see if we can make that interesting. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. So you want to do, are we doing 5 episodes a week next week too? Are we changing anything up?
I am around all week.
All right. Sounds good to me. Cool, man. And yeah, we've been guys, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like I'm going to start pushing this a little more. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It lets us know you guys are interested and want to keep seeing more of these. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. Real quick about that. I used to be a real political junkie. I used to love politics. Now I just completely can't stand it. But I used to watch Chris Matthews a lot on MSNBC. This is way back though. And he used to talk about how politicians need to ask for votes. It needs to be like, you can't just give your pitches and the whole thing. You need to say like, on November 20th, or whatever, please vote for me.
Yep.
It's just like the ask for the vote. So we are asking people to subscribe to the YouTube channel, not just assuming you will. Please do. It helps us know if anyone's watching this, if anyone cares about this stuff. It will encourage us to make more. Please join the channel and help tell us that this is something you want to keep watching.
Yeah, and please spread the news too. I mean, like we're watching the analytics to see if we should even keep doing this. So if you think other people, please keep sharing this thing. We'd appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right, man.
Later.
Talk to you later. Bye.